Hello everybody and welcome back. Metal parts priming is mandatory. I put a few drops of thinner to the airbrush. It lubricates the airbrush before painting. As an alternative to thinner and retarder mill, you can use Mr. Hobby leveling thinner or Tamiya retarder type thinner. Here is the result. Now we have a unified color and we are ready for the next step. If you miss some spots during next step's painting, they will act as a shadow. That's why I use the black primer. With the Tamiya XF series paints, I always add a bit of clear. Those paints are too flat, so clear gives you better flow through the airbrush and you avoid the dust effect on the part. Mr. Hobby paints, however, do not need clear to be added. They have it by default. I use 0.5mm nozzle to have a thicker paint layer. This object will be often touched by hand. It's not undercovered stand model object. I always start painting difficult to reach spots and areas. Internal parts, panel lines, corners. With this approach, you don't forget to cover those areas, and you do not get overspray on easy to reach parts. Here I am showing those areas that are difficult to reach, that I paint on first place. I'm covering the part holder spot. After painting advice. As a first coat, just cover the complete part as a filter. Just be more generous than me here, you will need less coats for the expected result. I did it for the first time, that's why for me it took a lot more coats to get the desired effect. I used the brown panel accent liner as the first and second coat, because it has a reddish tone in it. That's what gives a real wood look. Brown is a darker color, so you need to add it less. It gives you texture variation. I recommend to do this as a first coat. With this approach you will need less coats in total. The untreated part is on top, the treated part is on the bottom. The final result. In this step I will do 2 coats of chipping effects. At first I start with a more darker color, and in the second step I will use a lighter color. Basically we are imitating surface damage, scratches, wood top coat peeling. Also a side note, Tamiya paints get darker when fully dried. I usually apply chips on panel sides, handles, basically areas of frequent use and where the object gets damaged. Now I'm going to use the lighter tone, you can see the difference. Also, if you have Tamiya buff color, you can use it as an alternative to one that I use. Here is the final result. I recently tried Sunny 7 varnishes and they appear to be very good. I have never got any frosting with this flat varnish. They are lacquer based, so you need to wear protection. Here is the varnishing result, and it has a very flat look. I try to use metallic paints on top of varnishes. This approach saves their unique metallic look. Also, it is recommended to have a separate brush set for metallics, otherwise there is a risk of contamination, and you can get those shiny particles into your usual paint. And here is the final result. On this ammo case you can see additional details made with a scriber. I did it before painting. This box is without additional scribe details. I did not have a dedicated brass paint in my storage, that's why I decided to give a try to chrome markers. Those are alcohol based, so they cannot be washed out with water. The downside of using them is that some difficult to reach spots can be missed and not painted. Here I'm covering the projectile with a metallic color. A post-paint note, because I made a mistake. For this step I recommend to use a gloss varnish for a shell case. For the flat color projectile just use a satin varnish. And for the metallic color projectile just leave it as it is. Do not varnish it. Shell case is the bottom part of the shell and projectile is the top part of the shell. So here I did a mistake. I varnished everything with a gloss varnish. Sanin 7 varnish is a super gloss varnish, so your part will get a wet-like look. Also, if you have a good metallic paint, this varnishing step can be avoided. On this Panzergranate 39, I painted red stripes behind the scenes. Red stripes on those shells means that it's a tracer type shell.